and our approved plan when we make one of the following decisions. That's a change in our allocation priorities or the method in distributing the funds. When we're carrying out an activity or using funds from any program covered by the consolidated plan that was not previously described, and a change in purpose, scope, location, or beneficiary. Lastly, if we transfer a significant percentage, 50% of the allocated funds from an established program to another program. So these are the three cases where that occurred in our past plans. And through our public participation plan, we have to notify the public of this. First is our downtown commercial rehab program. We had allocated $100,000 to this project in 2011. This project stalled and did not proceed after funds were allocated, so the funds were reallocated to other eligible projects. Next, we have our University Gardens project. This was back from 2005. We had allocated $500,000 to this project. This project did stall as well, and recently HUD made those funds re-available to us to be reallocated to other programs. So funds will be reallocated for acquisition in this case. And next is our Chodo set-aside. This was not noted in the public hearing memo. It was kind of a late addition, but it will be republicized the next public hearing we have. We just wanted to tell you about it since you were here today. Our Chodo set-aside is being raised from roughly $86,000 to $418,000. This is our 2011 activity. This is a proposed, again, it was not publicized yet, increased funding for 2011 to fulfill our obligations to construct 7 single-family rental houses. So that comes down to roughly, I think that project cost is about $80,000 per home. And again, all three of these projects and the substantially amending them by moving them to other projects is consistent with our 2011-2015 consolidated plan. Next are amendments to the consolidated plan. This is Phyllis's slide, so I'm going to let her jump up here and talk to you about it. This is Phyllis Brown.
As Jonathan had mentioned earlier, through doing the consolidated plan, citizen participation surveys and the like, what we found is there is a need for affordable housing, and one of the methods by which we're proposing to meet that need is to implement the tenant-based rental assistance program, or TBR is what we call it here because it's a mouthful to continuously call it the tenant-based rental assistance program. But it is similar to, but not exactly like the Section 8 voucher program that the federal government has. The only difference in that program as opposed to ours is whereas Section 8, there's no expiration date to the voucher, our voucher is good for 2 years, and it does provide the rent subsidies. Our 2-year program, during that time, what we would like to do and what we are planning on implementing is a self-sufficiency caveat to that. So we're requiring that those participants in the tenant-based rental assistance program participate in housing counseling and other financial type programs just to kind of empower themselves to not stay where they are but aspire to move out of the hand up and be able to kind of reach back and help those who are less fortunate themselves. So the target date for us implementing that program is July the 1st, and you'll hear more about it because we are going to be, you're getting this first, I think, we are going to be accepting applications for this program on June 15th. I think those who are interested in that program can come by on June the 12th. However, there is a priority, as you see here, for that TBRA program. Again, one of the things that kind of goes along with us being an impoverished community, part of that makeup is our homeless population. So we are going to give those the first priority to take advantage of this program. The only other requirement other than being homeless is for them to be income eligible as well. Secondly, we're going to, the elderly is our next target for the order priority. They too would need to be income eligible. And then those who may be disabled or have a disabled household member as a part of their family would also need to, is the third order of priority. And last is everybody else who's employed but income eligible. So I think I want to make sure there's something else I need to add to this, but I just can't really think about it right now. But that is our order of priority for that program. We're really excited about it. It's new, so I'm sure we're going to have a lot of bumps along the way, but we're proud of it too because we feel as though we're doing our part to make that more affordable. The other good thing about the TBRA program that is similar to the Section 8 program is that it's portable. You can choose wherever you want to live within the City of Albany as your housing opportunity, and it's not all apartments. It is single family homes as well, and some mobile homes as long as if they're affixed to the foundation. So this is an exciting program that will allow families to go wherever they want to go, and not be stifled by the fact that they can't afford to go to certain areas of the City of Albany. So, but that's what we'll be rolling out on July 1st. Are there any questions about the TBRA program right now?
Yeah, where does the funding come from? What's the dollar threshold?
The funding comes from our home, the home program is what funds this particular program here. And your second question was what now, Mr. Wright?
The dollar amount.
Right there. Your home, $180,000.
Well, now that's not going to offset anything you had now for the children.
No, that's two totally different types of programs.
In fact, we're required by HUD regulation to set aside a minimum of 15% of our annual budget, home budget, for CHODOs. So that hasn't been reduced as a result of this program.
Basically, we're initiating the TBRA program as a pilot program based on the consolidated plan, which is a 5-year plan that identified that the trend for housing is no longer home ownership, but it's venturing more towards rental housing. So to enable the city to fulfill that need, we're providing subsidies for income eligible households that meet those priorities.
Well, I guess what I'm really trying to understand is the 180,000. Is that in addition to what we would typically get as an entitlement city, or we just
A part of.
No, it's not additional. It's coming out of our.
A part of our.
no, the
Annual
15%. Okay, that's
Well, not 15%. Just the CHODO is the 15%. TBRA is a completely separate program, separate from the CHODO program.
Our allocation is 500 and some thousand.
For this, it's
For
a
this
336 is the home dollar, 330.
So that 180 will come out of that. Those different line items that he identified, all those will come out of that allocation.
$366,120.
Where would a person apply if they were interested in the program? We'll be accepting applications here on the first floor conference room on June 15th. From 9 to 1, we're accepting those applications, but to pick up the application, you can come on June 12th, all day from 9 to 4, to Suite 333 to pick up the application.
On that 15th, it is on first come, first served, but based on those priorities.
Okay, so you're giving out applications on the 12th,
Yes,
but you
ma'am.
will be accepting them back on the 15th?
Yes, ma'am, from 9 to 1. Any other questions? Thank you.
We got two other things that we're going to mention as far as the consolidated plan. Second thing is the required addition of LGBT protections under the Fair Housing Act. The federal government, in fact, enacted this as law. Part of the Fair Housing Act, which is this law here, if you want to go look it up, it protects, per law, lesbians, gays, bisexual, and transgendered persons are now a protected class under the Fair Housing Act. Previously, they were not, and HUD was able to present data indicating that they were being discriminated against, and as a result, this was passed into law. This amendment requires us rewording some of the language in our consolidated plan, and we're just notifying them of that. Third change is our proposed revision to our strategy target areas. First of all, when we got here, this one is something to get a little basic, just for the understanding. When you think of a target, I usually think of this image over here. I don't really think of this. And you think of the smaller areas, bullseye on a dartboard is actually 2.3% of the area. So a target is a really small part of it. Our previous target areas, which I'm going to go into, covered roughly 2/3 of the city of Albany. That's like 66%. And while I must agree, we do have some very challenging conditions that exist through a wide area of our city. One of the things that comes up in literature time and time again is that you have to concentrate your efforts in order to reinvest and invest in these areas. If you're doing a project over here and a project a mile over here and another one over here, it may feel good, but you're helping those individual households. So these target areas enable us to concentrate our resources and objectives and make sure that they remain focused. A vast amount of the research, like I mentioned, supports concentrating the resources to comprehensively combat blight and other negative conditions that exist within low and moderate income neighborhoods. Without a target, we're left just doing those projects all over the city, helping individual households, but not neighborhoods, and certainly not the Albany community as a whole. We want to be precise and accurate. We don't want to be doing projects all over the place. We don't want to be doing them all over the place somewhere where we shouldn't be doing them. We want to be doing them where we should be doing them and on target. So look at our old NRSAs, which stands for Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy Target Areas. This is the map I put together when I first got here. And this is the 2/3 of all of Albany. As you can see, there's 5 different colors on here. There's really only 3 areas. There's the South Albany area, the Enterprise area, and the East Albany area. But the reason there's 5 different colors is because they're overlapped with each other. So we get targets on top of targets, and you can't even figure out where you're supposed to be doing what. And are you supposed to be doing those projects in that area, or are you supposed to be listening to the other target area? So it was a little confusing. And one of the things that I set out to do was make it a little bit more simpler and to shrink that area a little bit. And the 2 census tracts, and to compound all of that, we had the new census, and these census lines changed as a result of redistricting. So what we're proposing removing is Census Tract 103.01, which actually doesn't exist anymore. It's mainly the Miller Coors plant and about 500 residents that live in this area. The second area we're proposing removing is Census Tract 11, which is here on the west side. Of all these census tracts, it has the highest annual household income. So if I had to say who doesn't meet the requirement of low and moderate income, that's on the high end of the scale, that would be Census Tract 11. So when you make those 2 changes, remove the overlap, you get a map that looks like this. You have our East Albany local target area, which is these 4 census tracts. You have our Enterprise target area, which encompasses the downtown and just north of the downtown district. And then you have our South Albany target area, which includes these 4 census tracts up until the city limits here on the south side. These are the proposed changes as far as how we're going to hone in our resources and make sure that we're not doing projects all over the place where they're more concentrated. And we'll evaluate the data to see whether they need to be consolidated even more, but the idea is we really just have to have that concentration. As you can see from the data, we have less resources than we've ever had before, and we're not going to make as big of an impact if we're not concentrating those resources in our community. While it may be politically popular to do them all over the place, it's really not going to help the community to the greatest extent, and that's what I'm here to make sure happens. Why propose these revisions? As I mentioned, the Enterprise area was just over 20 square miles, or just over 35% of the City of Albany, which is way too large. The overlap, the need to concentrate the resources, there's no multiplier by having target area on top of target area. It doesn't work that way. While there's smaller commercial areas that exist throughout the city, it's well documented that this is just talking about the Enterprise one. I'm going to cover all 3 of the target areas individually and why they need to be changed. Revitalization of the central business district is something that is really key and highlighted. Projects can still be undertaken outside of these target areas. Remember, this is just what we're striving for, the greatest concentration of our resources. But we really prefer not to be doing projects outside of these target areas. As I mentioned, the census tracts bounded, so they changed, and many of the areas that we had didn't exist in their instances that they exist today. And then lastly, our budget cuts over the last 2 years. The South Albany target area, previously it actually included downtown Albany, so it wasn't really even living up to its name before as being South Albany. The confusion, the need to concentrate the resources. While there's challenges throughout Albany, South Albany is a little bit more distinctive in the challenges that it faces. A majority of the South Albany target area actually is within the floodplain, which reduces household income through having to pay flood insurance, which is currently on the rise, and increases our costs of constructing houses in the floodplain because there's an upfront added cost of building it up to the level that it needs to be at in order to be insurable. That can usually add about $10,000 to $20,000 to the cost of a house. The census changing and our budget cut changing was the other reasons why the South Albany was changing. Lastly, the East Albany, the overlap, the need to concentrate the resources. Again, there's different challenges in East Albany. East Albany is different than South Albany because you have a lot of strong institutions in East Albany. South Albany post-flood, it seems like a lot of community institutions like schools have been removed from some of those areas and moved to higher ground. In East Albany, you got Miller Coors, you got Albany State, you got Coates and Clark, and a lot of higher family occupancy of households. So it's a different market altogether. So of course there needs to be a different strategy in it than the other two target areas that I spoke about. And then we're on from there, and census tracts and the declining budget. So from here I guess we have a scribe somewhere, and Phil's going to be our lovely scribe. And the commenting period regarding this information, this is all available on our website. Presented at this public hearing will be open through Monday, June 25th. You can mail comments to this address here at the bottom, which is the building you're in, suite 315. Or you can call me personally, that's my direct line, or email. You can do it between the hours of 9 and 5, or any other time I'll get it. Yeah. Yes, sir.
First of all, is it possible to get handouts of the information and budget?
It's all available on our website. I wish we had the resources to do that, but a year or two ago, would have said no problem, but today I have to say it's on our website.
Well, it kind of would help to, well, anyway.
I can go back to whatever slide you want to refer to.
Let's look at the budget slide.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Broke it down so it'd be easier to read. This is the home, or did you want to see CDBG?
CDBG. Okay. Now your loan servicing, is that the cost for the company that you outsource your loan servicing to?
I think that the contract amount for AmeriNational, who we outsourced the loan servicing portion to, was approximately $79,000. Some of that is salaries.
Internal, because we also have like the rehab program, emergency, not emergency, but rehab program where the loans.
Okay, so some of that is your staff people.
Mhm.
Right, in your house.
Mhm.
And the housing, what I don't understand, you got 132,000 for housing, that's for residential, rehab, or, and could you explain that again?
Yeah, it breaks down to $90,000 of this 132 is for emergency home repairs, and then $20,000 for our home rehabilitation administration, so that's administration of that program. And then the remaining $22,631 assist certified CHODOs in developing organizational capacity. Becoming a CHODO is a very difficult process, and it's something that we've had difficulty in the past acquiring certified CHODOs and making sure that they have that organizational capacity and the resources for operating. So that's what that last part of the line item is. Another thing to note is, while you may be looking at like these as far as percentage bases, there's sometimes resources left over from previous years that's still like in there. So it can be confusing to be like, well, why are you spending $90,000 on emergency home repairs? We may have had money left over from not doing enough or not getting enough applications for emergency home repairs the last year. So we may have only seen it necessary to add $90,000 in order to meet the projected need for this next fiscal year.
And a lot of what we did when Jonathan and a consultant did the consolidated plan, which is the 5-year plan that the city maps out to see what the needs are. There was a survey that was done, and one of the programs that most people wanted, they didn't want anything where there was a loan. They wanted basically a forgivable loan or a grant program that could help them to assist with immediate needs, and that's why these are emergency repairs, plumbing, electrical, roofing, HVAC system. And most of the interest was in the emergency repair program. So that's why a lot of the funding went to that program, based on the community.
So is that program still
That's still
5,000 or
operational.
less? Is that program still 5,000 or less?
It is. Well, it's actually up to 10,000, but it's based on the specific need for the household. But it can go up to 10,000. The purpose, I guess the plan is so that we can maximize our dollars and meet the need. At the same time is to not to really turn anyone away, but if we can get a lot of the housing units, we're basically looking at one emergency repair item, which is roughly around $5,000 to $6,500.
So are you basically eliminating those properties where there's possible lead-based paint?
Lead-based paint, they won't be addressed with this one. Lead-based paint can add sometimes up to $10,000 if there's the presence of lead, so that would exceed the program threshold.
So a lot of those older homes are just not going to touch those.
The good thing about the emergency repair program, the house does not already have to be up to code. With the rehab program, they had to be brought up to code. Emergency repair, we can go in and replace an HVAC system and walk away. But when there is the presence of lead, then there have to be further review. If it's going to exceed that threshold, we may have to defer or deny.
And that's actually an important point, is as a result of these budget programs, we didn't really kind of fool with any of the programs that we already had in existence that were already working properly. We did cut a few programs that you're not seeing on here, like our commercial facade program would be a good example, I believe, one that's not being funded anymore. We also, homeowner rehab program. So everything you're seeing on here is currently active programs that are functioning properly to where they need additional resources, but we didn't really nitpick in changing any of the rules within these individual programs that we saw working properly. And of course, the other thing to add is the reduction in our administrative costs. We've sought creative ways to save money, including but not limited to layoffs and other staff reduction strategies.
I like to use them on information on the shoulder also. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes. We'll probably go on to the next slide and go over home now. We all done with CDBG?
Well, I have a question on the
Yeah.
PA program.
Can we hand? Can
Oh,
we do?
yeah.
Okay. Just because I don't have to be clicking all over the place.
Now, economic development,
Yeah.
205,000. Is that going to be enough, or you got other money that's going to take care of the operation on this?
Jackie can probably best answer that. She's our economic development program manager, but also our aspiring filmer. So
Well, for economic development, that $205,000 is for the Microbusiness Enterprise Center, and that is probably a third of our usual budget that has been cut. So we have had to look at some creative ways to do away with some of the things that we have been able to provide in the past in order to keep the whole of the program intact as it is.
How creative have you had to get? How creative have you had to get?
Very, very creative. We've had to reduce some contracts, do away with some contracts, and also, like Jonathan said, as far as staff reductions, those are some things that we have to take into account as well.
and there's other money, resources available for economic development that, for other programs that we do in economic development, still available, or has all that been depleted?
Well, we still have funds available through our, currently we have funds available through our EDA loan program, as well as currently we have funds available through our ED program. With the downtown retail incubation program, the money that was allocated to that program has been set, and it won't be, no additional funding will be provided for the upcoming year, but it is an 18-month program, so we're going to serve those businesses throughout the 18-month period. And then there is also our Section 3 program, which provides economic opportunities to contractors as well as job hiring opportunities to Section 3 residents. So we still have a presence, even though, there is a large cut. But like Jonathan said, we're going to make sure our resources are targeted and create the most impact that we can with the resources that we have available.
Another thing we're looking to do with all of these activities is to collaborate with other organizations that we haven't worked with before. I know we may have actually worked with Habitat a while ago in the past, but we worked with them recently on a housing project where the city donated land that was in our disposition inventory so they could construct the houses. And kind of a mutually beneficial relationship to where it lowered the cost of building those houses. And that's something we're continuing to look into. Who has the same mission as us in Albany? Who can we work together with? Who can we establish a relationship, and what can we offer them? And I know the budget numbers have decreased as a result of that entitlement funding decreasing, but that's something we're continuing to promote and market ourselves better to where other organizations know we're here and know what we can offer the community. So we're glad that y'all are here.
And your public service, I'm having down to 40,000. How many agencies do you anticipate that will?
I believe it's 4 grants, 4 or 5, yeah.
So basically 10,000 each roughly.
What's the TAG program? Is that a new program?
No, that program has been in existence. It stands for Technical Assistance Grant. It provides capacity to building public service grant recipients. So if they're one of those 4 or 5 grantees down here, where you mentioned receiving the competitively awarded 40,000, and they are eligible for some of the technical assistance grants as far as growing their capacity if they're a new nonprofit, or increasing capacity through demand, or not maybe having the staff to, I guess, implement their plans with the newfound resources through the grant program. So they kind of work hand in hand.
So that's additional funding for them?
Yes.
It's through the workshops and the technical assistance, whether we provide it or consultants provide to them.
So it's not funding going to the
No.
grant recipient?
Oh, that's correct.
To their benefit through the workshops and training.
And one last question. With this being your proposed budget, obviously there's more money going into this than your entitlement. And is the rest of it program income that's included in that?
The program income amounts are not, they're already included in this.
Let me see, I think we're going to, what is it, allocation 9, something for CDBG?
I think it is inclusive, yeah. And that's again proposed program income, so it could come in above or below.
900 go with 7.
To go with 7, right.
Yes, it is 9.
Okay, on that, number 2 there, section 10, loan payment to Hilton Hotel, and who else is that?
Okay.
McGregor's a very small part of it, isn't it?
I think about 35,000.
Right. Yeah, that needs to, at any rate though, there's nothing in here really that addresses the core of the problem, which is beneficial job creation, as well as loans. You had a loan servicing, but you need to have something there that's going to do something for jobs. So I have that written up already for you.
Well, if I can address our Section 3 program, we are currently contracting with a local nonprofit that's in the process of providing employability workshops for those Section 3 certified residents or low to moderate income residents to help prepare them for the workplace. Also, when hiring opportunities become available through the Section 3 program, then those persons that are certified will be considered for those hiring opportunities. So there is a job creation element that we are addressing through our Section 3 program.
Job placement element, not creating job training and workforce development.
Yeah, that's kind of vague, but go on.
Okay, section 108, how much is that is recaptured? That's not, the 478, they do make payments on that, and some of that is recaptured, right?
There is, I believe, McGregor's is about 25, 30,000, and the rest is the Hilton. The Hilton may be about 300 and some thousand that they're actually paying to us. We're basically paying more back to HUD than what they're paying to us.
Very good question, Joe. Yeah, I've done public hearings now for a year. Questions on
I can get the, oh,
that? And then I guess we'll go on to home next.
And I just wanted to understand what, that total was and where's the money allocated to.
This is, we, as Jonathan indicated, we're only required to set aside a minimum of 15% for children each year. Each allocation of home funds that we get annually, a minimum of 15% has to be set aside for eligible children, those that meet the criteria and that are considered as certified children for the City of Albany. And this is the allocation for 2012-13. But the children are responsible for housing development, whether it's rental housing, new construction, acquisition, and rehab of housing. And they're typically non-profit organizations that are certified as the children to develop either of those activities in the city limits of the City of Albany. And right now we have only one certified children, but in the last year, I'll say last 6 months, we've been aggressively outreach mechanism and marketing for children, and we do have some interest. We'll be putting out an RFP probably before the end of this year for children development. So the action plan amendment for 2011, that program year is the first time that we've elevated that set aside amount to, what was it, $400 and some thousand. And when you think about it, depending upon what the children is looking to do, $400 and some thousand is not a lot of money. When they look at 54, if you were to put out an RFP for 54,000, what's that, one house, rehab, you know, so really it's not a whole lot of money. So we're just trying to provide an eligible children with enough or sufficient funds to be able to do what they need to do and produce affordable housing.
Well, where can I find a proposed plan on what you plan on doing in each target area? Say, for instance, South Albany. Is there a plan, an active plan? Like you say, you don't want to be all over the place. You want to target certain areas in each district. Is there a proposed plan, or are you still working on it?
There's a presentation on our website that talks about the specific challenges that each of the target areas faces and what the strategies are, but they are more general to the specific target area. We haven't honed in on specific blocks yet. That's something we're hoping to do here in the near future. The idea is still relatively new to Albany. It's different than what we've done, the way we've done things in the past, but I think it's something that's really going to be beneficial to the community working on that smaller scale. Right now, we just revised the target areas, so from there we're going to kind of revise the strategies after that. But there is a presentation on our website that highlights those challenges individualistic to those areas, and what we generally hope to achieve in each of those areas, but we haven't specifically found the areas. A lot of factors need to be taken into consideration when deciding an area. You know, I mean, you really want those critical institutions that you can partner with. You know, you want strong churches, you want strong schools, you want other people that care about the community. One of the other things that I highlighted that I've kind of brought to life too is home ownership. And I don't have that map available in this presentation, but it's on our website. I've broken down home ownership on the block level. And Albany has roughly about 40% home ownership versus the national average, which is roughly about 60%. Home ownership is something that our country really strives to promote because they know about the positive benefits that it has on a community. When you're a homeowner, you care when something's going on your block that shouldn't be going on. You care about trees and different factors because you're attached to that area. It's where you raise your family or where you build those memories up over time. As a renter, you may not have that attachment to that community in the same level. You know, if something's going on, you might lose your job next month, you might be moving clear across town to where you don't really have as strong of a financial investment in that area to see it turn around. You know, you're not going to come out there and volunteer and clean up trash and paint things and all those things. So one of the strategies that we're really looking at is focusing on those areas, those blocks that have that higher home ownership, and kind of radiating out from those areas where there's those pockets of home ownership into the areas that maybe there's lower home ownership. So that's one of the strategies I think makes a lot of sense in Albany, because there's very few pockets of higher home ownership. When you look at the map, you see the areas where we've actually fostered home ownership, like in Charity Lane, River Road, American Lane. But then you also see pockets, Hampton South is another area, I know off the top of my head. But you also see areas where other organizations like Habitat for Humanity has built Colonial Village down by the airport. That's another pocket of high home ownership, because we're actually making a difference when you look at it on that scale. You know, when you look at it citywide, you're not seeing that difference as much. But when you look on the smaller scale, you can see that difference and build off of where you've made a difference to make more differences easier than saying, all right, now we're going to go over here and start from scratch.
Just like River Road, for example, South Albany, what's the plan for developing that area? So right now, it's way underdeveloped compared to the east side development. I think River Road has a lot of positives and negatives. One of the things that we're finding when the city is developing, we're trying to remove ourselves out of being developers, and like Jonathan indicated, because of the minimum or lack of funding, partner with private contractors or agencies such as Children. And one of the concerns with development, not just in River Road, but South Albany, is predominantly the flood requirements. Well, the issues as far as development costs, because FEMA says, okay, it has to be 3 feet above the base flood elevation. And that could tack on 10 to 20,000 for construction costs just to build one house. And so is it feasible? But we don't have a lot of developers coming saying, I want to develop in South Albany, I want to develop. Because when they ask where is the city-owned property, and we own 500 plus vacant lots, and we can't even give them away in South Albany because they know.
We know, we can't give out away either, but we're stuck there.
So what's the plan for that?
Exactly.
Because our plan is going to. I can tell you, since I've been here with Charity Lane subdivision, that the plan was to start development Charity Lane and then circumvent its way back around to River Road. But now I can't say that's the same plan now because of the decreased amount of funding, right, because of the lack of interest.
So in that instance, that makes our property value go way down, way down. So what's the plan for us? I mean, it's like, you're not gonna put anything else over there, you can't give the land that's out there away, we don't want it. So what's the plan for development?
I won't say that we're not, I just can't say that I can't give a win, I really can't. The reason that we're partnering with a lot of the Chodos is because we have such an influx of vacant property. And their mission should be to produce affordable housing. So what we're trying to do is, we're saying, okay, we have all of this vacant property. That's less cost to you as far as having an inventory of property. And then we're providing you with funding to develop housing. And what we're doing is trying to steer development in areas that they would not normally want to develop in, by providing them with land that's donated to them, and also Chodo funds.
A perfect example of that would probably be the tax credit project with Vantage there on the south side. Hickory and Lane. It's a development that was steered into that area as a result of it not being seen as viable by the developer.
Isn't that rental and not homeowners? Isn't that rental
There
and not
is.
homeowners?
There is
some, it's sort of like a lease to purchase. The third phase was more of a lease to purchase program, but there's the opportunity for them to own. There's some tax credit.
Well, they made some different decisions on how they developed that part of the land than they did South Albany. Was there a reason why they went back and they elevated the land over in that area and not in River Road subdivision? Because there's been a lot of issues with the high water table, and it's been real costly to people in the community. It's hard to maintain your lifestyle, and you have to continue to repair, because of the high water table, because of the wood and the water and the moisture and the wood rotting and different things, different issues. But it seemed like they knew something because when they went and did that project, they didn't have that problem because they elevated the land altogether.
It's a couple of factors playing into that. Any development in the floodplain has to meet FEMA requirements, and FEMA says what level you need to elevate that property to. Vantage tried to circumvent, and they did infill, we call it bringing in the sand and elevated the property to kind of navigate that. But each property is different, and the height requirements is different based upon what they call the base flood elevation. What is the minimum elevated level that property needs to be, and it's supposed to meet that. If it does not, and you'll see in the South Albany areas, a lot of the houses are still not elevated, that means that they have increased flood insurance costs, because if they don't meet that minimum 3 foot above the base flood elevation, they're paying more for flood insurance.
Even if it's built before
The map changed in 2011. So some houses that may have met the requirement prior to that may no longer meet that requirement. And if you don't elevate it to that requirement, to that minimum standard, then you're probably paying higher flood insurance rate.
Any other questions regarding home or anything in general that's been covered? I think that's all we had.
One thing, on the reallocation, the 500,000 from University Gardens and the commercial facade program, what, you mentioned something about acquisition.
Yes.
Now, exactly, because it seems counterintuitive if you're trying to dispose of a 500 unit inventory and then go and buy more. So what exactly are you planning on acquiring?
This project, this is University Gardens, where the city provided, I forget the name of the company, University Gardens with $500,000 for acquisition costs to develop housing in that area. And because as of 2011, 2012, there is nothing there on the property that was acquired with those city funds. So it said, time's up, pay us our money back. So the city's general fund had to pay HUD back that $500,000. Well, the good thing about it and bad thing is that HUD turned around and gave that money back to the city and said, utilize these funds on an eligible project that the city's general funds would have utilized them for. And I think that one of the proposed ideas was working with the city and the private contractor with the demolition of the Heritage House. Right. Because that was one that the city was already looking to partner with.
But the thing about that is, I knew that when they had the public hearing on the budget, that that's what they were going to try to do, take that money, and it should be well, it is a bad deal because in essence, what you just indicated, I said, okay, pay me back. You pay them back, and they said, well, we're going to give it back to you, It appears they're giving it back, but the only thing they're really doing is saying, well, we're going to refund the general fund. I mean, that's it.
It still has to be an eligible CDBG use.
Right, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that when you filter through it, that's what it amounts to. Any way you look at it, all you're doing is, HUD said, pay us the money back, pay them back, and they say, okay, since you're going to take this out of your general fund, that makes it fall under auspices of an eligible project, but it seems to be that it's just a tremendous disadvantage to do it that way because there are so many other, and I know you guys know all of the needs, but there's so many other things that we've been discussing here tonight that since University Garden did not develop, that those programs, because there's really not any real benefit to those other than reclassifying something that the general fund was gonna pay, just taking the money and giving it to the cities. So at the end of the day, they will not be out of the $486,000 that they're gonna give to Oxford. That's what it amounts to.
But the city would the city get title to that property?
And what is the plan once the city has title to the property? It's demolished.
No plans at this time.
I haven't seen it. I think that
They mentioned the construction of the multimodal.
At that location?
Yeah.
multi was still in the.
They're about to do the excavation on Monday at the, from what I read in the paper.
Now, one last question on University Garden. The part that has been developed so far and the property that's there, what's the plan for getting that completely developed?
That's owned by a bank. I know that a private contractor was interested in acquiring it, but it's owned by a bank.
The bank's not willing to sell it?
The bank sold it to us, a non-profit lending institution. I can't remember the name of it. I can get it.
Georgia Affordable, I believe,
That's it.
in Atlanta. But the location where the houses or the townhomes were actually constructed is not the property that, the property that the city had invested in has nothing built on it.
We have no ownership.
We never owned those structures.
So was that initially all part of one project?
It was like a 3-phase project based on what we can get from the files and everything. And you're right, the enclave, which was the home ownership part of it, was a part of that three-phase project, but none of the federal funds went into phase 1, which was the enclave, the home ownership. And I think the third phase was like a multicultural center. That was 2 acres of that. The total amount was like 20-something acres all together, of which 8.74 acres was supposed to be the multifamily complex that would have housed approximately 120 families, of which we injected $500,000 for that purpose. But the enclave and the multicultural center, which was approximately 8 or 9 acres, we had no involvement in that part of those other 2.
So is anybody actively working with whoever the owner is of that property to?
University Garden?
Yeah.
He's deceased.
No. Whoever owns it now.
Oh, okay.
Is anybody working with the institution that owns it or the bank or whoever?
We did have one private contractor who was interested in applying for some of our funds to develop it. Hadn't heard anything else from him, but he was actively seeking to acquire the section that has the units on it, and then to redevelop, I believe, west of that property.
Well, I gotta say that my interest here is kind of biased. We kind of here as a community, and I was here wondering how can we, as a community, acquire some of the funds in our target areas. You know, some of the funds that are being tossed around, they really don't know what to do with, and they've been sent out, allocated, and brought back. How can we, as a community, get some of those funds for some of the projects in our community that's been overlooked for several years?
One of the things is this meeting, public hearing, attendance to the local town halls and community, because for so long, there has been no attendance. And when you have no
This
voice.
is great. I'm really surprised and pleased to see this number of people here. It's usually, we can always count on Mr. Wright to come, you know.
I've given a couple
outside of
comments.
that,
I've given a couple comments.
that's pretty much it. The media comes and then
But
staff.
really, your voice is essential, because even during the consolidated plan process, that's where we're really, we're planning off of a 5-year plan. The plan is already completed. We got citizen input during that. Now, this is great because if there are any amendments or anything that need to be done on an annual basis, we can go back and look at and see community needs and reevaluate